All right, welcome everyone. I'm Kevin McDonough, and I am joined today by Avenue colleagues Brandi Sanner and Alex Quinlivan. Thank you for joining us for today's discussion on modernizing case management and how Avenue is helping courts transform through enhanced case management, e-filing, reporting, imaging, everything. Today we're highlighting Avenue Full Court Enterprise, our web-based, end-to-end, fully scalable, complete case management solution. And we're talking everything case management. And through automated workflows, complete financial capabilities, payments, scheduling, and with permission-based access throughout, allowing you to be both in control and resting assured. And in keeping with our Louisiana webinar trend, we're going to give you some great content today. But again, we're going to have some fun along the way. And in just a few, Alex will talk us through and demonstrate Avenue's Full Court Enterprise. But before we get there, and throughout this webinar, we'd love to hear your questions, concerns, or even your local experiences. Please put your questions or comments in the chat. So let's get started. Brandi, what do you say we break the ice and first create some smiles with another fun opening slide? And I think this this next one might be my favorite of the series. So please take it away.
All right, let's do it. I don't know, maybe it's an age thing, but Jeff Foxworthy was a big deal when I was younger, and I loved him, everything he did. So we thought we'd take a spin on that and do You Might Be a Clerk in Louisiana If. And the first one is, if you've had to explain to a cousin at Thanksgiving that you don't actually decide the cases, you might be a clerk in Louisiana.
You might be. So you might be a clerk in Louisiana if you've used duct tape to fix a printer and considered it good enough for government work.
that could also say you might be a mom in Louisiana. I think I've You might be a clerk in Louisiana if you can spell étouffée and interlocutory without looking it up.
I would definitely have to look it up. All right, so you might be a clerk in Louisiana if you've seen a defendant show up in flip-flops and say, "These are my fancy flip-flops."
Yes, indeed. That's so funny. And you might be a clerk in Louisiana if you've seen a paper jam that shut down the courtroom for a whole hour. Oh my goodness.
All right, so you might be a clerk in Louisiana if you've had to explain what e-filing means more than 100 times.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like I've done that. Alex probably feels the same way too. Oh, that's funny. And thank you for that, Kevin. And since we're talking about case management today specifically, I thought it would be really funny to talk about a couple of these cases that we ran across that were just interesting case titles. The first one is the state of Louisiana versus 1976 Cadillac Seville. Kevin, was the car actually like...
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, yes, the car was the defendant. Asset forfeiture law is wild, y'all.
Oh, yeah. That is funny. Well, it's wild in Louisiana. Another one, this is specific to Louisiana, is the state of Louisiana versus Mickey Mouse. Did we take Mickey Mouse down here?
Yeah, it's almost too good to be true. So this was a real citizen error. They meant a person nicknamed Mickey Mouse, but that's not how it looked on the docket.
No, I got it. That would have been a funny docket to see. Zooming out outside of Louisiana, but still funny, the United States versus approximately 64,695 pounds of shark fins.
This is crazy. I mean, this was an environmental case, but the title alone deserves its own Discovery Channel special.
Right, exactly. And then now the Cartoon Network, we have Batman. Do we have Batman here in Louisiana? Because he's versus the Commissioner of Internal Revenue. What did Batman do?
This is crazy. So filed by a man legally named Batman, but sadly, no Batarang evidence was admitted in the case.
That actually is unfortunate, but the fact that you can legally change your name to Batman, I don't know. Let's think about that for a minute. I have some ideas there. And the last one here, this is funny because this just to me reminds me of I don't think this was in Louisiana, but it reminds me of something like my kid brother here in Louisiana would have done as a joke. But South Butt LLC versus the North Face Apparel Group. This
Yeah.
can't be real.
Well, it's so true story. This was a parody brand sued for mocking the North Face, and the case ended up
Okay.
settling because the North Face apparently didn't find it very funny.
Oh, I guess I wonder if there's any folks down here in Louisiana off on their fishing boats out in the Gulf wearing South Butt LLC clothes.
Maybe one or
I
two,
don't
maybe
know.
10.
There could be. There could be. Oh, I love that. Oh, so with that theme, we are talking about case management today. We're going to show you our full court enterprise software. And it's going to be, so we've scaled this down. Honestly, Alex can tell you, we could probably spend 8 hours going through all of the different modules in the system and the functionality. It's a very robust system. So we're going to thin it down for you today. We're going to give you a teaser. We're going to demo some of the features. But to intro Alex, I'll just tell you that this solution is an all-in-one case and payment management system. It is built on scalable and high-performance architecture. There's a powerful workflow and document automation, seamless payment and collections integration. That's a big one. And it's flexible, a web-based platform with enterprise integration. So that is also a very key feature. So with that, I'm going to pass over to our good friend Alex here at Avenue, and he is, the resident expert on full court enterprise, and he is going to show us some of the features that this system has. Alex,
Perfect.
good to have you here with us.
Thanks. So
Don't
hey everybody,
we got a surprise for you at the end.
Yeah, apparently. So my name is Alex Quinlivan. I'm a senior analyst in implementation support with Avenue. Been with the company for 10 years now. Worked with courts all throughout the U.S. Prior to coming and working with Avenue, I worked for the California Superior Courts for 7 years. I was a legal process clerk and a part-time courtroom clerk. I was also a civil subject matter expert. My court was actually a really large court. We had over 250 users just in our court. Everything was very separated and departmentalized. We even had a small claims department. That's how large scale we were. Had 5 different case management systems, if you can imagine. Each department had their own case management system. I'm sure you can imagine the cost of having 5 different case management systems. They were all really old and antiquated. We were looking in the market for a new case management system, and that's when we came across Full Court Enterprise. We really loved the product. That's what we went with. I was on the team that got to work with the folks at Avenue to implement and do all our business process analysis. And towards the end of the project, position opened up and I applied for it, and here I am. So I actually got to train my court on how to use our product, and I was there for their go live support. So kind of doing the same thing that you guys were doing, watching these demos and picking a product out. So excited to be here today, and we'll jump into our demo.
I love that, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll go ahead and log in here. And so as I mentioned before, Full Court Enterprise is a browser-based product. Before I start going too far into this, just so you guys know, if you're having trouble viewing this, you can click that full screen mode just so you can see everything a little bit better. But yeah, so this is a browser-based solution. There's no special software required to be installed on your workstation or to use it. There is some optional software that you can use to take advantage of certain features and functionality in FCE, but base product, you don't need anything besides an internet browser. It is secured, so of course, courts can control who can access Full Court Enterprise. It is accessible remotely if need be. So we do have some courts that have remote desktop connections or VPNs into their court network, and then they can access FCE remotely if they need to. But basically, the way this is laid out, again, there's so many features that we can show you, and I only have a limited time, so I'm trying to get as much in here as I can. But basically, the layout works. We have our top menu across the top here. This will always be the same. This is used for general navigation throughout the system. We have, of course, searches, and there's a number of ways that you can search for cases. You can, of course, do by case number, party name. You can even search for a case by the citation number or the police report number, or if you work with a third-party agency and you track their case number or reference number, that can also be searchable to help you locate your case. Under cases is where a majority of our case processing functions live, and I'll show you a few examples of those a little bit later on in the demo. Under accounting, as we mentioned earlier, we have a full double entry general ledger accounting system built into Full Court Enterprise to help courts manage their finances. And this is anything from, of course, the system auto-calculating fines and fees, to receiving payments and handling those distributions to the different agencies that this needs to be dispersed to at the end of the period. Anything from cash drawer balancing, check printing, check registers. We do bank reconciliation. It's all built into Full Court Enterprise. Under scheduling, of course, this is where you can do all of your calendar management. And this is anything from, scheduling court holidays. So when we're trying to schedule a hearing and we accidentally put it on Christmas, it's going to tell you that, hey, you can't schedule this on Christmas because the court's closed, and you don't have to go contact people and reschedule hearings. We also have a functionality that I'll show you a little bit later on called time blocks, court time blocks. And this allows your judges to define their court calendars. So in my court, we had judges that would say, I'll only do bench trials on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That 2 law and motions will be Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and I don't want more than 5. So courts, or judges rather, get to define their calendars. And then that allows FCE to find available time slots when you're trying to schedule hearings, instead of trying to flip through the manual, binder or Outlook calendar to find an available hearing. Under supervision, we won't be covering much for supervision today, but I just wanted to let you know, Full Court Enterprise does have a supervision module. This is intended to be used by folks like probation officers for court supervision. So it's kind of a mini case management system within a case management system. It allows them to kind of track their own file that's linked to a criminal or traffic case, but they can do their own notes in there. You don't have to worry about them adding notes and things like that to the court case file. They have their own linked case that they can use to manage their supervision cases. Under document management, as we mentioned earlier, we have a fully integrated document management system. So this allows clerks to scan and index documents to cases. Makes it a lot easier when you need to go pull an order and see what it says. You can just pull it right up in FCE. You don't have to go pull the file. Under reports, we have over 200 reports that come stock with Full Court Enterprise, and we'll talk about these a little bit later. And you also have some other options for creating your own ad hoc reports, or even creating custom crystal reports and loading those into Full Court Enterprise to use. Last but not least, one of my favorite menu options is our admin option. As we mentioned earlier, Full Court Enterprise is highly configurable. This is one of the things that my court fell in love with. One of the things that we were really frustrated with our other case management systems was anytime there was a law change or a policy change or procedure change, and we needed to adjust our workflows in the system, we always had to log a ticket with the vendor, wait like 6 months for that to happen, and come out with a release before we could make any of those changes. And so with Full Court Enterprise, it's all configurable. So if there's a process that changes, you can go in here right away, make those configuration changes, and go back to business as normal. So again, one of my favorite things about Full Court Enterprise is the configurability of it. So what we're looking at right now is our dashboard. This is what you'll see when you first log in, just to kind of cover some of the items that are on here. So we have, of course, courtroom sessions. These are a widget that we use to kind of organize cases that are on calendar for the day. If you want to throw all your cases on calendar into one session, you can. You can even break it out. My court, we would do like a morning arraignment calendar. We would do, law and motion calendars. But it's just a way to kind of organize those cases into a group so that you can quickly access those when you're in court. We'll talk about this functionality a little bit later on in our demo. We also have what we call work queues. And again, these are the things that you can configure and set up on your own. You don't need to have a programming degree. You can do it through the UI in Full Court Enterprise. But this allows courts to track anything from just a notice on the case to alert the clerk of something that exists on the case. These can be tasks that need to be completed on cases. So if a judge in court orders a warrant to be recalled, but the clerk doesn't have time to do it in court, they can put it in a warrant recall work queue so that they can come back later on and handle those without having to keep the file with them. You can also use work queues to automate workflows as well. In fact, we had one court where they had a whole parking division that we were able to completely automate using work queues. And again, we can dive into that a little bit more later on. We also have reminders. So of course, if there's anything that you need to follow up with, you have to call an attorney back on Friday to see if some order was filed. You can create reminders in the system for yourself. I mentioned earlier, we have our supervision module. You have work queues that go along with that as well. And then we also have our judge daily schedule. So kind of like Twitter, you can, or X now, you can follow judges so that it'll list them here, and you can see what they have on calendar for the day just by expanding these out. These are all hyperlinks as well. So if I ever need to go and get more information on that case, I can click that hyperlink and it'll take me right into that case. Speaking of, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this case just so I can talk about some of the other menu options that we have in here. But one of them is going to be this little green bar across the top here. This is what we call our breadcrumb trail. So as I navigate around in the system, you'll see items popping up in my breadcrumb trail. This just allows me to go back to any previous page or previous case that I've been working on earlier. So it's really great if you realize you forgot a step working on the previous case, you can just go right back to it and complete your steps in there. This is a main case page that we're looking at. One of the things that I do want to call your attention to is this left-hand navigational menu. Here, this will always be the same no matter where you go in the system, but these left-hand navigation menus do change depending on the page that you're on. So it will always give you options that are relative to the case that you're in or the page that you're on. So in this example, I'm on a criminal main case page, so it's giving me all these options related to this criminal case. Versus if I was to go into the charges on this case, let me just click in here. You'll notice my left-hand navigation changes now to give me options for that specific charge. Okay. So one thing I do want to point out, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a party record here. And I like to use The Simpsons for mine. And Homer is very busy in this demo environment here. So I'm going to go into Homer's party record. So one thing that I really love about Full Court Enterprise as well is that it is what we call a party-based system. So what that means is that the idea is you'd have a single party record in the system, and then all of their cases and information are associated to that single party record. So it gives us a better idea of what's going on with an individual across the system. So in this party detail page, this is for Homer Simpson here. This is all the information that we've gathered across all of Homer's cases. And again, he's really busy. He has a ton of cases in this environment. But the nice thing is if he moves and his address changes, I just have to update it on his party detail page, and that will go back to all his other cases that he has in the system. I don't have to go into all 100 and some odd cases and change an address. I just have to do it once. This also gives us more insight into what's going on with Homer across all of his other cases. Again, you can see in our alert banner up here, this is going to give us some information. There's a clerk alert in here that lets me know that they want us to send him to the probation department. So maybe he's in trouble with his probation officer. We can see he owes the court quite a bit of money. This is his balance across all his cases. So if he wants to know how much it costs to pay everything off today, that's his balance. We can see he's got 4 outstanding warrants. He's got 4 open bonds that total, $1,580. He speaks Spanish, so I may need an interpreter if I need to interact with him. He's on probation for 9 different charges, and he's had his license suspended as of September of 2024. Again, I can deep dive into other aspects of him across the case. I don't have time to go through all these, but I do just want to point a few of them out to you. But I can see his hearing information. How many times do people come in and they say, hey, I'm here for my hearing, but I have no idea what my case number is. I don't know what courtroom I'm supposed to go into. They don't have any other information besides their name. But that's really all you need, because you can pull up their party record. I can go into their hearings tab and see all their hearings that they have scheduled across the entire system. The other tab I just wanted to show you really quickly is this history tab. So this can show you, again, their history across all of their cases in the system. He's actually got 80 cases in here. This is a list of all those cases. It does give me some basic information on those. If it's a criminal or traffic type case, it's going to let me know what the charges are. I can see what his role is on these cases, what the status is, what the balance due on those individual cases. And you can even filter these options as well. So I can even say, I'm only interested in cases where he's the witness or the victim, or maybe it's a civil case and he's the plaintiff. So it makes it really easy to find that information. And again, these are all hyperlinks that I can click on to go right into those cases if I want to get details on those. Another one I like to show is this program history. So this is really great. Any other sentencing programs that they've been ordered to complete, whether it's community service or traffic school. Again, you get to set up those other sentencing programs, but this will give you a history of all of those programs and their status and disposition. So again, if the court's considering community service or traffic school, they can look at their program history, and if they see a bunch of where programs or he failed out of them, maybe that's not a viable option for that defendant. And again, these are all hyperlinks, so if I want to get additional detailed information, I can just simply click on any one of these. It'll take me right into that detail page. Whoops, I clicked too fast here. And it's going to go ahead and show you all the details for that program. So again, really nice because you have all that access to those cases. I don't have to click through all 80 cases to see which one he had to do traffic school on. I can just simply pull it up in his history here. Okay. So next, let's talk about how these cases get entered into the system. Now, obviously, I can go through and manually enter citations and complaints and things like that into here. But I want to kind of demonstrate some of the integration that we have in Full Court Enterprise. So I'm going to show you what we call our citation import process. And so the way this works is, your law enforcement will issue citations and tickets. They'll generate a file and send it to the court. The court can just simply come in here and select what law enforcement agency that's coming from. They'll choose their file. Grab my case here. There's my file. And we're going to hit upload. And so what FCE will do is it's going to read that file. It's going to create those cases for me automatically. In this case, these citations also include an arraignment date. So it's going to go ahead and schedule those arraignments for me. This information also includes an image of the citation. So it's going to go ahead and index those to the case. And all I had to do was click a couple buttons. Once it's done running through the data file, it's going to generate the citation import summary report for me. And that's going to let me know any citations that were successfully imported. It's also going to let me know if there was a problem with any of those citations in the system. So let's go ahead and pull that up here. So it'll let us know here's the citation that we just imported and here's the case number that it assigned. It's also going to let you know, I did this on purpose, but this citation failed to import, and it's just letting me know the reason why it failed is because this badge number isn't recognized in the system. How often does that happen where they get a new officer? No, I don't want to try the free trial. They'll get a new officer and they don't let the court know. And so all we have to do is go in and add that officer to our table. And now I can actually re-import that same file. FCE is smart enough to recognize that this case was already imported. I don't need to tweak the data file to stop it from creating a duplicate case. It will recognize that that's already a duplicate and it will not import that one. But it'll see that we now have an officer in our table, and it will go ahead and create a case for this one. So it makes it really nice because you don't have to go in and finagle those data files to just get this one case to import. You can just do the whole thing and it'll clean up what it needs to. So let's go ahead and take this case that we just created and pop in here. We're going to do a citation search. I feel like my environment's getting slower. There we go. So let's go ahead and pull up our case here. And so this is the brand new case that we just created. There is logic that you can apply, and you get to actually tell it what logic you do want to use to match to a party record in the system. But the system's already matched this to our Homer Simpson record that we already have. So it's already pulled in his mugshot and everything. Of course, you can see our case status is pending because we just created the case. You can see that it's got my arraignment on calendar already because that came through in the import. I can go into document management here and view my citation. And again, that just comes through that can come through in the import. There's my citation here. Okay, I can go in and look at the charges on here if I go into charge summary. So this one's for running a stop sign here. You can see, of course, it's a brand new case, so there's no pleas or findings or anything like that on here. And so this case is just imported into FCE. Now, there are reports, like you saw earlier, that you can run to show you what cases were created from that import file. But I want to show you another of my favorite functionality is our SitePay integration. So we also have a website called SitePay USA. And again, we can set you up. There's all kinds of different configurations that you can use with this. But the idea being that folks can go onto SitePay, they can pay their fines and fees online. We also offer capabilities where they can do what we call a plea and pay. So if they know they're guilty, Homer's not going to contest this. He knows he ran the stop sign. He just wants to pay his fine and be done with it. We can set up plea and pay for this. And again, it's by charge too. So if there are certain charges that are eligible for plea and pay and certain ones that are not, we can configure that as well, or you can configure it, just based off of your policies and procedures. So let's hop over to site pay and see what that looks like. So the first thing they'll have you do is select your state. So this demo environment's in Illinois. There it goes. And there's my demo environment. We're going to select what we want to pay today. I'm going to go ahead and pay my citation. It'll have you either put the case number or the citation number in there and their date of birth, just to confirm their identity, and search. And again, because this is a party-based system, not only is it going to pull up the citation that we're trying to pay today, which is this guy here, but it's also going to remind me that I have other obligations with the court as well. And we saw how much money Homer Simpson owed across all his cases. So again, the system is kind enough to remind him that he has other balances as well. For today, I'm going to go ahead and just pay that one case off, but I could pay all these off if I won the lottery. So we'll select that one to pay here, put that in my cart. This will pop up. Again, this is configurable, so each court gets to define what language they want to be displayed here. But essentially, this is just me agreeing that I'm going to be entering a guilty plea, and I'm going to be waiving my right to trial. You have to agree to this in order to move on. Of course, it's going to take some payment information here. So let me just fill this in. And if you want, you can write down that card number and go shopping later, but probably won't work. 625, 123. You can put an email address in here if they want to get an email copy of the receipt. They do have to accept the terms and conditions that, of course, everyone takes the time to read. And submit. So this is my receipt. I can print this out. I can download this. This will let me know here's the item that I paid today. And oh, by the way, here's all of our unpaid balances with the court, just as a little friendly reminder for them of other obligations that they have. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. We're going to jump back into FCE. I'm just going to hit retrieve here to refresh this page. So with the integration to SitePay, what this will do is it accepts the payment on SitePay. SitePay is going to send that information back over to FCE, and you can see this case is now automatically updated. And before you freak out, this is all configurable, so you get to define what that action is going to be once that payment is made. But this is just to demonstrate, capabilities here. So you can see that this case is now closed. No further action is needed on it. I can go into my case ledger here and see that, all the appropriate fines and fees were assessed and paid through e-payments. I can go back to my case. We can look at the hearing on the case, and you can see that this traffic arraignment that was on calendar has been resulted. So in other words, it's been removed from my calendar. And the reason is because it was a site pay payment. So there's no money on it anymore. So it just came off my calendar. I can go into my charges here, and we can see that our running our stop sign charge here has an electronic plea that's been entered and a disposition that's been entered on this. And so ideally, this case is all done now. Clerks don't have to touch this. They don't have to do anything to manually process this. We like to refer to it as a 24-hour virtual clerk, because technically somebody can, 3 o'clock in the morning, go onto SitePay, do a plea and pay, take care of all their stuff, and FCE can handle all that without a clerk having to go in there and do any data entry at all. There are reports in the system that you can run that will show you any site pay payments that have come through. We have reports that we send to courts automatically anyway, so you'll know anytime a site pay payment has gone through. Okay. So that's kind of a quick way to automatically dispo these cases out. Let's talk about how the courtroom works. This is another feature that I do want to show you, is our courtroom processing. And so this is designed, we all know in courtrooms, judges move at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and they're just giving you all this information that you're trying to enter into the system and send off to defendants and get them to the appropriate places. And so we have put together some functionality in FCE called courtroom processing. And the idea behind this is that it's kind of a one-stop shop for all of your disposition entries that you'll need to do in the courtroom. So I've just brought this case up in courtroom processing. This case has 2 charges on there. They just happen to be the same charge. But the idea is that, you'll have all your charges listed here. You can select what charge you need to do entry on. And then you have these different tabs here, just depending on the type of information that you're trying to look at or enter. And then you have all these fields where you can capture that information. And I know it seems like a lot of fields, but I promise you, you get so used to it, you know exactly where to go or where to look to enter this information or to view this information. But just for example, this disposition tab, we can do things like amend the charges on the case. We can take a plea. We can enter findings on there. We can assess fines and fees or adjust them. Other sentencing, we can enter them in other sentencing programs like community service or traffic school. We can put them on probation. We can sentence them to jail time or house arrest. Under the other tab, we can do things like suspend their driver's license, change up their attorney. So if some new attorney shows up in court for them that day, I can swap it out right here on the screen. We can put cases in work queues. So if we know there's other tasks that need to be completed later on, I can just toss this case in a work queue and then deal with it later. Under hearings, I can schedule future hearings. So if they plead not guilty, I can schedule this for a pretrial or a trial. For courts of records that do minutes, we have a minutes tab here where you can capture minutes for your case. And then there's a section for judge notes on the case as well. So if there's any type of judge notes that you need to view, those are available as well. And again, you can go through all these different fields and fill this information in one by one. But we all know that's kind of slow. And courts can move on whether you're fast or slow. So we try to make it as easy as possible for you. So what we did is we came up with a concept called macros. So these are intended to be used for kind of common things that happen in the courtroom. So rather than me having to enter all these different things over and over again, I can set up a macro for this. And again, the court gets to configure these so they can control how they work and what they do. But I'm going to go ahead and select my first charge here. We're going to run our macro. This one's a TR. Traffic, pled guilty, found guilty. And all I have to do is type in those couple little letters here and that macro will run. And you can see it does all kinds of things for me. So this went ahead and entered in my plea of guilty, my finding of guilty. It's assessing my default fines and fees, making them do 30 days out. It's also entered traffic school in there. So they have to do traffic school within 30 days. It put them on 6 months probation. On my other tab, this also entered a driver's license suspension for 2 months. And it also did some minute entries for me. So now I can just go in here and fill in the blanks and be done with this case. So again, makes it really easy, and you can control and create as many different macros as you need. But the idea is that, if you have these kind of standard entries that happen, you can create macros for those. So the next functionality I want to show you guys is our scheduling and document generation. So I mentioned earlier our court time blocks, and I'll show you how that works. But we also have the ability, and this is one of my favorite things, is to generate documents out of Full Court Enterprise. So again, you get to create your own document templates, and then you can load them into Full Court Enterprise so that they can be used. And the way it works is it's just basically a Word document. So whatever you want that notice of hearing or that order that the court normally prepares to say, you just prepare it in Word. And then anywhere on that document where you want it to pull what we call a merge code in there. We have a whole merge code manual. Almost every field in Full Court Enterprise has a merge code that goes along with it, because we do not want you to have to do double data entry. If you have taken the time to enter something on a case, we don't want you to have to go back and re-enter that same information on a document. We can pull it in with a merge code. And it's just one example of a merge code is case number. It's all one word, no spaces. And that just tells the Full Court Enterprise to put the case section. So I have a notice of hearing on this case that's set to generate when we schedule a hearing. So I'm going to go ahead and add a hearing to this case. We're going to schedule our bench trial. Bench trial. We're going to put it with this judge in this courtroom. And then I'm just going to say, show me what's available the next 60 days out. And again, based off of my time blocks that I have set up, it's going to look at this judge's calendar and propose some dates for me. So you don't have to have the binder or the Outlook calendar that you use those hearings. You can use your court time blocks. So this will let me know at 56 days out, there is a slot available. It looks like this judge only does bench trials on Thursdays at 10. I can see that there are 6 slots available. Obviously, on July 10th, it looks like there's something already scheduled there. But again, you can kind of see what's going on the calendar. I'm going to go ahead and select this date and say, OK. Excuse me. And we're going to go ahead and save this. And again, those merge codes also work for other areas of the system. You can see that we're doing some automatic case entry. So this is all based off of table setup, but it's set up to create an automatic ROA entry or kind of a summary of what's going on in the case. And it's pulling in all that information, so I don't have to, again, retype it here. So there's my next appearance. Here's my notice that automatically generates for me. You can see everything's already filled in for me, including the hearing information that we just selected. It even pulls in my signatures. I even have courts that will have this generate with the file stamp already on it so that everything's good to go. They just literally print this out, shove it in an envelope, and they're good to go. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that because I want to save some paper. But again, those merge codes can also be used in these ROAs so that, again, when they generate automatically, they can pull that information in. The clerk's not having to add to that. But you can freeform type in these. So if there is additional information that you want to add, you can do that right here on the fly. You'll notice this is also set up to do an email notification as well. So again, just options that you have. But again, I can send as a courtesy an email notification to the parties on the case just so they don't have to try to write down that hearings information. And again, I do have options to attach documents. So I could attach the notice here if I want to as well. So it gives you lots of different options. So I'm going to go ahead and save this to my case. I'm not actually going to send that email because I don't want to email it to myself. It's going to want me to, we'll cancel that there. But again, you can, my court, that's one of my favorite features. We had over 200 document templates that we set up in the system because you can literally customize it by hearing. So if it's a bench trial, it's one document. If it's a arraignment, it's another document. You can have it generate your warrants and your subpoenas and your orders, all from Full Court Enterprise. Okay. Next, we'll talk about some of the other aspects of Full Court Enterprise. Again, I talked about reports earlier. I just want to kind of show some examples of these. So as I mentioned, we have over 200 reports that come stock with Full Court Enterprise, and that's anything from financial reports to case-related reports to even statistical reports as well. And with all of these reports, I'm going to do scheduling reports here. With all of these reports, when you select them, they'll also give you options as well. So, I can run these for a specific time frame. I can even filter this down on this hearing report if I'm only interested in a report by a certain judge or a courtroom. I can tell it I want to include the case number or the judge on that report. So with each of these reports, you have options as far as what information you want, what filtering criteria you want to use for those. Again, if that's not something that you have a need for, like this report doesn't work for you. We also have what we call ad hoc reports. So this is your own reports within Full Court Enterprise. Just as an example, here's an ad hoc report that I created. This is what I use to find pending traffic cases for my demos so that I can pull up a case. I can go in here and show cases that are pending and dispo them out. And I can actually print this out. This will print out. I can export it as a PDF or as an Excel spreadsheet. So if I need to do anything further with it in Excel, I can also do that as well. It's putting it together for me. I think, do I have one that I ran earlier? And again, this is another thing that I love too, is all these reports, even if they're really massive reports, they run in the background. So I don't need to sit here and wait for this to finish. I can log out and leave for the day and come back tomorrow morning. And if my report's done, then I pull it up and view it. And of course, it's going to open up on my other screen here. But there it is. So again, Excel spreadsheet. So again, if I want to do further manipulation off of here, again, the other option for reports is that you can create your own crystal reports. So if there's specific information in a specific layout that you're looking for, courts can create their own crystal reports and upload them into Full Court Enterprise. And then clerks can run those crystal reports right from the application itself. So again, you can create your own custom reports for the system. Okay. The last feature that I wanted to talk through before we kind of turn it over for questions is our overdue processing. So with our criminal and traffic based cases, we have what we call this overdue processing. And what this is for is this is a mechanism built into Full Court Enterprise to help track cases where they've failed to pay, failed to appear, or failed to comply with court-ordered sentencing. So this will actually track those items for you on these cases. It's got quite a bit of setup with it, but the steps are for these different scenarios. And then the system can track those cases and follow through with those steps. So let's say they failed to pay, and maybe the court's first step is to send a nasty letter saying, hey, you failed to pay, shame on you, we're going to assess a late fee and give you 30 days to pay, or we're sending you to collections. And then again, maybe step 2 is, give them another courtesy notice, at 15 days, saying, hey, we still haven't received payment for you. And then maybe the third step is actually sending them another letter saying, hey, you didn't pay. Now we're assessing another late fee and reporting you to collections. But you can set up those different steps. And so the idea is that when they fail to pay and it's past the due date, you're not having to manually track that case. You can just simply run overdue. I'm gonna do my failure to appear here just because I know there's less in here and I don't have to wait for it to load. But you can run overdue processing. It'll identify all those cases for you, and it puts them together in a worksheet for you. So you can see for my failure to appears, I've got 203 cases that it's found. It'll let you know each of the case records that it found. So this one is for failure to appear. This one is on step 1. So it looks like it's a 30-day letter that's going to go out. It'll even let you know the specific document that it's going to generate for you. Overdue processing can do all kinds of things. I know I mentioned generating a document. It can schedule hearings for you. It can issue warrants. It can report to collections. It can suspend driver's license. There's all kinds of things that overdue processing can do as part of your steps that you define in those scenarios. It can even identify if there's a bond on this case, it needs to follow a different step where it goes through and forfeits or exonerates the bond. So again, you get to define what those are. And so on this worksheet here, this tells me what step it's on, what it's going to do. If I'm good with go ahead and moving forward with processing those, I can just simply select them and hit process, and it will do whatever that step is. And you can even see here, these are both step 1, but they're actually a different process because it's a different type of charge or a different type of case. And again, that's true for failure to pay, and we can even break it out if it's restitution versus fines and fees. There can be different steps for those. We can do failure to appears, and it can be based off of the specific hearing that they were supposed to attend. So obviously, if it's just some kind of like motion hearing and they don't appear, that's not as serious as an order to show cause where they failed to appear at a show cause hearing. There may be different steps based off of that. We also have our failure to comply. So if they were supposed to do community service, or they were supposed to do anger management or drug or alcohol rehabilitation programs, the system can identify those cases and again follow steps to whatever the court defines. All right. So that was kind of my demo. Just kind of wrapping things up. If there's any questions that anyone has, if they want to go ahead and put them in the chat, happy to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, I will turn it over to the other team to wrap things up.
Oh, thank you, Alex. That was awesome. I always enjoy watching these demos because every time I learn something new, it's mind-blowing. It's so user-friendly and intuitive. So really excellent job. Thank you for sharing that with us today.
Yeah, and Brandi, I'll echo that. I mean, I've seen, as you know, I've seen a few of these demos, and it's amazing to think that, Alex, you've done an 8-hour demo. I mean, it's mind-blowing that this does so much. And one thing that you touched on, and I hope this doesn't sound too simplified, but when you touched on the scheduling aspect, and I think of, I mean, I live by sticky notes. I live by Siri and Google and Outlook to remind me to do this and that. But just the fact that I don't have to go to a second and third party to set reminders for things that I need to do with my job. I can do it all inside, FCE. I mean, that's a selling point to me personally.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that is actually really amazing. So
before we close it up, Brandi, I did have a question, and I think we've determined that Alex has not. He's never in all his travels, his court experience, he's never seen a barrister. Is that true?
That's correct. No. I have not.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Hang on, Alex, 1 second.
Oh. This is why.
Yeah. So now, Alex, you get to check that box, buddy. All right, you get to check that box.
Now, I want to know, if you do this, does powder go flying everywhere?
You can't see it, but I did powder up and put some blush on my cheeks right before the demo.
Nice.
Oh,
And if you can't see it by now, I know I'm blushing enough, so it's probably coming right through.
I love it so much, Kevin. That's so classic. We did that on another webinar, Alex, and you missed that one. So we had to, that was your surprise that we had for you.
So this is a bittersweet, Brandi. You know, this is our fifth Louisiana webinar, and you know, through it all, and again, thanks, Alex, for joining us today. You know, we hope that we brought our Louisiana clients, you know, some fun and engaging details, and hopefully along the journey, you know, we've created some smiles too, and to our audience, you know, we know you're busy, and we appreciate you spending time with us. And if what you've heard today interests you, or if you want to learn more on how Avenue can help you in your court with our full court enterprise solution, which completely enhances the entire case management process, our email addresses are on the screen. Of course, we'd be honored to hear from you. So, Brandi, any questions that have come in that you can see that we need to?
I was looking. I don't know if we have any question. Yeah, I don't see any questions. So I think we're good, Kevin. This was so much fun. Thank you so much, Alex. And like Kevin said, reach out to us. We would love to connect with you. We want to earn your business. This is a really phenomenal solution for you. So to schedule your demo, just reach out to Kevin or I.
Good deal. Awesome.
Yep. Thanks so much.